Hello and welcome to New Central Television. I am Liko Onobanjo. The top stories at this hour. Abductors demand 250 million naira ransom for former Director General of the National Youth Service Corps, Bonny-Okrika. Police arrest 9 over death of Anambra lawmaker Justice Azuka. Leaders of Rwanda and DR Congo meet over Eastern DRC conflict. Details to come your way shortly. We begin with security matters. The kidnappers of retired General Maharazu Siga, our former Director General of the National Youth Service Corps, have demanded a ransom of 250 million naira for his release. Sources say the family of the abducted retired general was contacted late on Friday night by the kidnappers' ringleader who made the demand. Siga was kidnapped alongside several other residents of Siga village in Kankara local government area of Katsina State. The abduction occurred on Wednesday when armed assailants stormed his residence. During the attack, 2 residents sustained injuries, while one of the attackers was reportedly shot dead by his own accomplices. In the meantime, the Anambra State Police Command has arrested 9 suspects allegedly involved in the killing of Justice Azuka, the member representing Onitsha 1 constituency in the State House of Assembly. The Commissioner of Police in Anambra State, Anengi Claude-Wilcox, announced the arrests in a press statement, saying a joint security team on a mission to rescue the abducted lawmaker discovered his lifeless body. Itam added that on the same day Azuka's body was found, security operatives, in collaboration with Anambra State vigilante operatives acting on intelligence-led operations, apprehended 9 suspects believed to have played an active role in the killing. According to Itam, 2 pump-action guns were recovered from the suspects. He added that one of them sustained a gunshot wound to the leg during an exchange of fire with the police. Still in Anambra State, the police there say they are giving a period of grace to vehicle owners in the state to register for the third-party insurance. Outgoing Commissioner of Police in the state, Bonny-Okrika, during the sensitization program at the police headquarters, says it is necessary for all security agents on checkpoints and drivers to understand the requirements and procedures. The stakeholders, however, expressed their concerns about the planned implementation while calling for extension of time for proper sensitization.
We also have across the state, there will be checks, there will be simultaneous mobile courts, there will be simultaneous licensing registrations in all the places where these checks will be going on statewide for the entire 7 days. And part of why we're doing this, so we'll have people in Anambra State aware, and no one will say they don't know what is going on.
Some insurance company has been licensed to issue the third party, even the comprehensive insurance. All you need to do is to Google. Once you are issue the insurance, third party insurance, you Google the name, whether it's among the licensed company.
We want to know the consequences of defaulters so that we will be able to pass this message very, very well to them.
They spoke about third-party insurance and also comprehensive insurance. Sometimes it's confusing. So I need a detailed explanation to differentiate the two.
With constant sensitization, the drivers out there will get to understand what they have just said here today.
Staying with security matters, suspected pirates have hijacked a passenger boat carrying 20 travelers along the Bonny-Okrika waterways in Rivers State. This comes as the Bonny Local Government Council said it had rescued 9 of the passengers, while a frantic search is on to rescue the others. Chairman of the council, Anengi Claude-Wilcox, said the rescue was in collaboration with security agencies. Claude-Wilcox said on Friday that the driver of the passenger boat went contrary to the rules to pass through kilometer 10, which is a prohibited channel for commercial boat drivers. Meanwhile, the Maritime Union Workers of Nigeria Rivers State Chapter has expressed worry over the continued pirate attacks in the state, calling heightened security presence in the mangroves very needful. Let's tell you that over 7,000 Nigerian refugees in Chad have started their journey back home after spending more than 10 years in exile due to the Boko Haram insurgency. The Nigerian government, in collaboration with the Chadian government and humanitarian agencies, have provided buses, food supplies, and basic necessities to facilitate their return to Borno State. The Central Bonny-Okrika completes the report.
For the past 10 years, these Nigerian families have struggled to survive the atrocities of terrorists. They stayed in Bagasola, Chad Republic, following their displacement from their ancestral homes. Their faces beam with smiles as repatriation efforts begin following improved security in the Lake Chad region, a crucial step in the post-insurgency recovery. Borno State Governor, along with Nigeria State Minister for Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, signed a tripartite agreement in Bagasola between the governments of Nigeria, Chad, and the United Nations High Commission for Refugees.
Republic na Chad akan dan wadaka da suka nuna mana da kuma tallafawa da suka yi da kuma shi kanshi gwamna da yan kasa wannan province da suka zama da.
We are fully committed to ensuring that this structural framework enables a coordinated and gradual process, guaranteeing refugees a return under the best possible conditions.
The returnees, mainly women and children, according to the government, will be reintegrated into their original communities or communities of choice.
We are here to witness the first batch of the repatriation exercise, and I want to commend the federal government of Chad, and I also want to most respectfully commend the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who has given us all the necessary support in order to facilitate this voluntary return. And I want to commend the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, commend the Refugee Commission of Nigeria for supporting this mission. On my own part as the governor of Borno State, I will continue to provide the support. And above all, let me commend the Nigerian military, commend the military of the Republic of Chad for providing the enabling environment for the government of Nigeria and the people of the government of Borno State to ensure safe return of our people to their ancestral land.
As these refugees head back home to Nigeria, it is the first steps in a long journey to pick up the shattered pieces of their lives. In Bagasola, Chad Republic, for New Central, Bonny-Okrika.
Away from security matters to environmental hazards, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited has dismissed reports of an explosion at the Warri refinery. The company stated that operations at the refinery remain intact, with 8 trucks of diesel and kerosene being loaded daily. According to a statement issued on Friday by NNPCL's Chief Corporate Communications Officer, Olufemi Shoneye, the controlled adjustment of operations on January 25 was deliberate. Shoneye emphasized that claims of an explosion at the refinery complex were entirely false. He added that NNPCL remains committed to ensuring an uninterrupted supply of petroleum products and appreciates the patience and cooperation of stakeholders as essential maintenance activities continue. To electoral matters now, Nigeria's Independent National Electoral Commission has assured citizens of its commitment to prosecute election offenders. This comes after the anti-graft agency revealed that 774 cases are ongoing in courts. The chairman of the commission, during an interactive session with the media in Abuja as part of its first quarter consultative meeting, says this has been made possible through a collaboration with the Nigerian Bar Association and has recorded success in several cases. He, however, expressed concern, saying many cases are still pending.
Through our collaboration with the Nigerian Bar Association, cases involving 774 alleged offenders from the 2023 general election are being prosecuted. So far, successful prosecutions have been recorded in Kebbi and Kogi states, while our collaboration with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, on vote buying has yielded similar results in Lagos, Kwara, and Gombe states. Yet, many cases are still pending.
In the meantime, an election observation group has criticized reports claiming that the recent governorship polls in Edo and Ondo states were peaceful, despite recorded cases of pre-election and post-election related violence. The Impact Development Initiative, in its report on election violence during the 2024 Edo and Ondo off-cycle governorship elections, says there is a need to examine events leading to the polls, including those during and after the elections. They urged stakeholders to effectively collaborate as preparation reaches a climax for the upcoming Anambra state governorship election in a bid to prevent a recurrence of the incidents witnessed in previous polls.
In Edo State, a policeman died before the election. And that is one of the things we've highlighted in our report, that we should not be judging election, a peaceful election, on what happened on election day. It's a process. So what happened a month to the election is very critical to what happened on the election day. Because naturally, what happened on election day is going to be a bit limited, because police restrict movement, and then you have limited, and then they flood most of those states with a lot of security agencies. So on that election day, you are likely going to have peaceful election, but our finding shows that the neglect of pre-election and then post-election is something we need to begin to tackle.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is renewing its call for an electoral offences tribunal to tackle the growing backlog of cases. INEC Chairman Mahmoud Yakubu made the appeal on Friday in Abuja during the Commission's first quarterly consultative meeting with the media. Yakubu said the current system, where electoral offences are handled by magistrates and state high courts, slows down prosecution. He noted that many cases remain unresolved, sometimes carrying over to future elections. He emphasized the need for a special tribunal with specific jurisdiction and a set time frame to ensure swift justice. INEC has repeatedly called for electoral reforms to enhance the credibility of Nigeria's election process. To discuss this, we're joined by an election observer with Connected Development, Emmanuel Njoku. Thank you so much, Mr. Njoku, for joining us. Mr. Emmanuel Njoku, can you please unmute your device? We can't hear you yet.
It's not muted.
Okay, yeah, we can hear you now. So how effective is the current system of handling electoral offenses in Nigeria? Let's start from there.
Yeah, clearly, INEC has not been successful in handling electoral offences issues because justice, when it comes to do with generally everything, but more around the electoral offences, should be timely, should be prompt, and it should be seen to happen. But where people election passes and people you see clearly that violated the Electoral Act and committed electoral offences are not prosecuted, like the chairman said, most times it is carried over to the next election. So INEC, who typically by the Electoral Act has the mandate to tackle electoral offences, has repeatedly told Nigerians that they do not have the capacity to do this. I mean, I think the time has come for us to unbundle INEC in this regard and put this in, whether it's through any other electoral offences commission, or allow the Nigerian police force to handle these activities, these both civil and criminal offences that can arise from elections. INEC they've told us clearly that they cannot do this. I think we should take this completely from them and allow the Nigerian police to do this, because it's an offense. Like the INEC chairman has said clearly, INEC does not have the powers to enforce any law. INEC does not have cells. INEC does not have where to keep these people. And in many cases, the biggest challenge with these problems of electoral violence electoral offenses is that when people commit electoral offenses, the cases must be tried in the jurisdiction or in the state where these things happened. Typically in the states, in a magistrate court where this thing happens. But the way by the time you stretch this case, the IPO usually that was handling the case, when you allow the case to keep dragging on, you see that it gets to a point where the IPO that handled the case has been transferred. And when the case is transferred to another IPO, the IPO has also been transferred. And just over time, there won't be enough evidence to be able to try these guys and put them behind bars. So, yeah, we need to review this whole thing and bundle INEC in this regard. And when they say Electoral Offences Commission, in my mind, I keep asking, looking at the cost of governance, do we really need to set up a full government parastatal, a full government institution just to manage electoral offences? I believe there are security agencies already on ground who can handle this without necessarily creating a full parastatal of government with all the bureaucracies and with all the costs that will go with it just to tackle electoral offenses. I think the Nigerian police should be able to lead on this. I mean, in elections, mostly Nigerian police is the lead agency when it comes to election security and everything that concerns security in elections.
And do you think that establishing an electoral offences tribunal would be better when we look at the timeliness you've mentioned about? We've heard of undue interference by those who have vested interest in those cases.
Yeah, so that's what we talk about being timely when these things happen. And just like we talked about the when candidates go to court to try to get judgment, all of these things needs to happen before the people who won the election, before candidates are sworn in. Which is usually May 29th. Elections happen usually within February and March. So this thing needs to be timely as such that before the candidates who won are sworn in, both tribunal issues around candidates and every issue, including electoral offenders, should have been tried. Because you know that these guys who commit electoral offenses, they do not just wake up from their houses and decide to go and commit electoral offenses. They are funded. They represent a candidate. They represent a political party. So most times when you allow these things get to a point where the candidates, where people have been sworn into office by May 29th. And mind you, these cases are tried in the states at the state magistrate courts, where the governors and the political elites decide who becomes the judge in the state courts. So if you don't get this thing tidied up before the May 29th, you will see that justice will not will elude everybody in this process. So yes, there is really need for us to put this together while everybody is still in that euphoria and excitement and confusion of election and what happened in the election. People should also see in the news that out of these 730 something persons who have been convicted, with all the evidence available at that time, that before May, you should have seen that close to 300, 400 of them have been, prosecuted and if found guilty, jailed. That way, to have an impact and to have an effect in the mindset of Nigerians who may who may have intentions in the future to get involved in electoral violence.
Okay, so we understand what needs to be done now, but then there are still issues with setting up an electoral offences tribunal. How do we overcome that hurdle?
Frankly, I think with the paucity of funds in the country, I think Nigeria should be looking at the direction of cutting cost of governance. While I think INEC, INEC has told us clearly that they don't have the capacity to handle electoral offenses. So while I agree with INEC, they don't have that capacity, I don't think I'm also a fan of creating like I said earlier, having a full electoral offences commission just to try electoral offences. Electoral offence is a crime in Nigeria, and I believe that the Nigerian police should have the capacity to handle this effectively without creating a full agency with all the bureaucracies, with all the organogram, and with all the costs that goes with government institutions in Nigeria. I do not think the Nigerian police is sufficient to handle this, and this task should be put in their hands to do the needful. And
you think when this is done, it will deter would be those who would want to cause violence in subsequent elections?
So Nigerian police by itself will not be able to exactly do that, which is where we need in the Electoral Act. There needs to be a timeline. We need to have a timeline of some sort or some legal framework that will ensure that these cases are tried and put to rest within a period of time. That way, both the judiciary, whether we're going to have special courts, but how to go about this is what should feed into the conversation that we are having right now around electoral reforms, because it's important that this is a major issue when we talk about having credible elections. So as we are discussing electoral reforms and talking about what should be and what shouldn't be, this has to be a critical conversation in the electoral reforms that is ongoing right now.
All right, thank you so much, Emmanuel Njoku, for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you for having me.
Let's go on a short break on the news. When we return, we'll tell you about the House of Reps that is set to be considering a bill to prevent judges from being tried at the Code of Conduct Tribunal. The details will be here in a bit. To stay with us. A member of the 8th Senate, Shehu Sani, has slammed the proposal to create 31 additional states in Nigeria. The plan was presented on Thursday by the House of Representatives Committee on the Review of the 1999 Constitution. Deputy Speaker Benjamin Kalu read a letter outlining the proposed states during plenary. Sani questioned the need for more states when many existing ones rely heavily on federal allocations. He described the proposal as ironic and comical, accusing politicians of trying to create mini colonies for personal gains. The debate over state creation has been a long-standing issue in Nigeria's political landscape, with concerns over economic viability and governance efficiency. Let's turn our attention to the judiciary and tell you that a bill seeking to insulate judicial officers from prosecution by the Code of Conduct Bureau has passed the second reading at the House of Representatives. Solomon Bob, a People's Democratic Party member from Rivers State, sponsored the bill to amend sections 20 and 24 of the Code of Conduct Bureau and Tribunal Act 2004. The bill intends to sequester judicial officers from prosecution until they are legally removed from office under Section 292, subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution. The debate on the bill began on Wednesday, but was suspended after it was discovered that not all members had copies of the proposed legislation. Clemens Jimbo from Akwa Ibom had opposed the bill, arguing that the proposed law seeks to give judicial officers immunity. And a while ago, we told you about the proposal for the creation of 31 additional states in Nigeria, and that has raised a lot of dust. Of course, in the National Assembly, we have a political analyst, Dr. Akin Fakponda, who will be discussing this particular issue with us. Thank you so much, Doctor, for joining us.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
It's a pleasure having you around. First, do you think it is sensible to have that sort of creation, 31 additional states? And are there any fiscal implications for this creation?
First and foremost, the National Assembly has done what amounts to a coup against society. Our representatives, nobody mandated them to create state, and they didn't even ask anybody. There's no movement the last 6 months to say, do you want state created? Do you want to? No questions asked. They just sat on their own, and they just divided Nigeria up among themselves, among their friends. This is worse than the military regime that creates states by decree. And it's so sad. They themselves now say, oh, the states are not viable, they don't meet requirements. So the National Assembly is just joking with our life. They're not serious at all. It's so disheartening that all they could think of at this time is to create states. 2025 budget has 14 trillion naira deficit. So where is the money to finance new governors, new mansions, new security votes for 67 people driving SUVs all over Nigeria? They're just so pedestrian. In fact, insulting to the citizens of Nigeria. Is that what they should be doing now at this time? It's not. It's not. They are not serious at all.
Dr. Fakwanda, we've seen the production of crude increase. We've seen the FIRS and, of course, the Nigerian Customs contributes more to the revenue of the country. We've seen the subsidy being removed and, of course, allocation to the states improve. So don't you think all these, in terms of revenue generation for the country, can help fund what these lawmakers are proposing?
There is a 14 trillion naira deficit in the budget. I have to cover that deficit first before you think of most of this money is fake. Okay, authority is increasing tariff now. You pay more on all import into all the ports. Telecommunication tariff is going to increase. The country is suffering. The country is bleeding. They are just in Abuja in their own world to spend and spend and spend and spend. And on what now? On what does not benefit the people that sent them there. I don't think they go home anymore. They don't go home. Maybe they go with security test, but if you go home, you say you want to create new chairman. Okay, let's be serious. Maybe these 67 states now should be local governments, actually. We should actually have 67 local governments in Nigeria. No more. No more. Maybe we can just make it a joke. The states that propose now will be local governments effectively. Let's abolish the present local government of 774. Maybe some good might come out. Let's start pushing now for 67 local governments and 4 or 5 states. That's the proper restructuring of Nigeria, really.
You think that would improve governance, impact the people more, and of course, on resource allocation?
By buying SUVs, by president buying a new jet, by president buying all sorts of things, by having 67 centers of security votes, and then the governor will do 1 or 2 flyovers in the state capital. Is that bring government to the people? Have they improved every private secondary school in Nigeria to have proper chairs and proper desks? Do they have every secondary school with proper laboratories to do experiments? Do we have internet connectivity in every secondary school? In every university, we do have it. We have more serious thing to do than this joke they are not talking about. All the roads are bad.
A few of the things you've mentioned have actually spoken to the challenges that Nigeria is faced with and we should be focusing on. But then, are there alternative solutions to address the perennial issues in terms of governance, development, dividends of democracy to the people?
Until the national members really know that they are our agents, they are not on their own. The only thing that will save Nigeria is to reduce recurrent overhead costs to not more than 20%. 80% should go into development programs. Last year's budget, they spent 100% on recurrent, but only 25% on capital. So all wasteful avenues of spending money is executed 100%. All contracts or budget that will help the masses now is only 1/4. And they are so dysfunctional. Last year's budget is still going to be on till June this year. The country is just badly managed, badly managed. Why are they bringing so more taxes to the people when there's so more money? And the money is even fake anyway, they are wasting it. It's terrible, it's terrible, terrible, terrible.
Dr. Akin Fakwanda, it was nice talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us on the news.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Of course. Coming up on the news. Death toll rises to 32 in jihadist attack in northern Mali. We will tell you more and bring you the rest of the stories in a short while. Don't go away. The news continues in South Africa, where government has expressed strong condemnation on Saturday following U.S. President Donald Trump's decision to freeze aid over a new law that he claims allows land seizures from white farmers. In a statement, South African government called the move disappointing, asserting that it stemmed from a campaign of misinformation and propaganda. They emphasized that the law, which addresses land redistribution, is a step towards rectifying historical injustices and does not target white farmers unfairly. The government expressed concern that such narratives have gained traction in the U.S., undermining their nation's sovereignty and progress in land reform. Now, the death toll from a recent jihadist attack in northern Mali has risen to 32, according to local sources. The attack, alleged to have been carried out by extremist groups operating in the region, targeted both military and civilian sites. The violence took place in the rest of northern regions, which have long been plagued by insurgent activities. Many of the casualties are reported to be soldiers, although civilians were also among the victims. Authorities have vowed to strengthen security measures in the region as they continue to battle growing insurgent threats that destabilize Mali and the broader Sahel region. Now head to east of Africa, where Rwanda's President Paul Kagame on Saturday met his Congolese counterpart Felix Tshisekedi in Tanzania as regional leaders convened in an effort to diffuse tensions in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Kagame and Tshisekedi are attending a joint summit in the Tanzanian city of Dar es Salaam, bringing together leaders from the 8-member East African Community and the 16-member Southern African Development Community. Since the resurgence of the M23 rebel group in 2021, multiple peace talks hosted by Angola and Kenya have failed to yield a lasting solution. Rwanda denies providing military support to the M23, but a United Nations report last year alleged that Rwanda had around 4,000 troops in the DRC and was profiting from smuggling vast quantities of gold and coltan out of the country. In the meantime, Congolese protesters marched towards the Rwandan embassy in Washington, D.C. to condemn Rwanda's alleged support for the M23 armed group, which has been carrying out attacks in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Demonstrators held placards reading "Congo is not for sale" and other signs calling on the United States to impose sanctions on Rwandan President Paul Kagame. Meanwhile, the United Nations top human rights body has announced plans to launch an investigation into alleged violations and abuses amid the deadly clashes gripping the DRC. M23 fighters and Rwandan troops seized the city of Goma last week and are now advancing into the neighboring South Kivu province.
Because everybody that owns a cell phone or a camera or any technological device probably has a little bit of Congo within them, with them, because the material that is used to build those electronic devices actually come from the Congo. And the reason Congo has been unstable is that the whole world, especially the Western countries, need those strategic mineral resources. But unfortunately, instead of dealing with the government of Congo, they prefer to deal with foreign governments to actually secure those material, and that's why 8 million people have died since the conflict started 30 years ago.
That's why we came here in Rwanda embassy to tell them that what they are doing is not right. So we're trying to remind the world that this aggression is the last one.
I'm out here today because Congo deserves better, because Congo deserves a voice, and because it has been too long of everyone ignoring this conflict, not caring about this conflict, and we need to make sure that Congo's needs are heard.
The Al Jazeera Conference, a local civil organization formed in the response to the Rapid Support Forces control of Sudan's Al Jazeera state, says at least 8,000 people have been killed and tens of thousands injured since the RSF seized the region. The violence, which began in December 2023 when the RSF entered Wad Madani, has continued through January 2025 with widespread atrocities committed against civilians, particularly women and children. The RSF has been accused of mass killings, forced displacement, arbitrary arrests, rapes and kidnappings. An estimated 5 million people have been forced from their homes and around 2,500 villages have been affected. In addition, 213 cases of rape have been documented, while approximately 10,000 people have been arrested or abducted, with many still unaccounted for. Still ahead on the news. Trump revokes Biden's access to classified information. To stay with us even as we bring you the details when we're back. Outside of Africa, we tell you that President Donald Trump has revoked his predecessor Joe Biden's security clearance in a sweeping new order, escalating his efforts to reshape U.S. foreign policy and dismantle the nation's primary humanitarian aid agency. In a rapid series of executive actions, the 78-year-old U.S. president also froze aid to South Africa, where his top donor, Elon Musk, was born and appointed himself chairman of Washington's prestigious Kennedy Center. Trump's move to restrict Biden's access to intelligence briefings mirrors a decision Biden made exactly 4 years ago when he barred Trump from receiving classified information, citing concerns over his erratic behavior before and after the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. Away from that, we tell you that Hamas has handed over 3 Israeli hostages to the Red Cross in Gaza as part of the 5th hostage prisoner exchange under the ongoing ceasefire with Israel. The hostages were released in the central Gaza city of Deir el-Balah, where Hamas militants escorted them onto a stage before handing them over to the Red Cross. In Tel Aviv's Hostage Square, crowds erupted in cheers as they watched the moment unfold on a giant screen, celebrating the return of the 3 captives in what has been a tense and fragile ceasefire. As part of the exchange, Israel released 183 Palestinian prisoners in return. Let's tell you that Sweden's government has announced plans to tighten gun laws in the wake of the worst mass shooting in the country's history. According to the police, 7 women and 4 men between 28 and 68 years died in the attack, including the gunman who killed himself. Named widely in Swedish media as 35-year-old Rickard Andersson, the suspect had 4 legally owned rifles, 3 of which were found in the school. Sweden's Center Rights Coalition, which relies on the support of the far-right Sweden Democrats Party, said on Friday it would seek to increase vetting around gun purchases and ban certain types of weapon.
Förhör med personer som har kopplingar till gärningspersonen för att förstå varför sker det här. Och där har inte vi ett svar att lämna ännu. Vi har fått till oss filmer där vi lyssnar på ljudklipp för att försöka säkerställa vad är det som sägs. Är det någonting som kan leda oss rätt i motivet? Men det är ingenting som vi som utredningsledare kan stå för nu. Vi tror oss veta vem gärningsmannen är, vad hans ID är. Men vi kommer inte bekräfta några sådana uppgifter för vi är helt säkra att vi har fått den DNA-matchningen som vi nu har skickat till Rättsmedicinalverket för att få svar på tidigare. Han har vapenlicens för 4 vapen och samtliga de här 4 vapnen är beslagtagna. 3 av de vapnen fanns bredvid honom i samband med att polis säkrade honom där inne i byggnaden. Våran bedömning och utifrån den förundersökning och det insamlingsarbetet som är gjort, det är ju att han har agerat ensam i det här dådet.
De poliser som var på platsen, de har beskrivit att de upplevde att skjutningen började riktas mot polis när de klev in istället för elever och personal på skolan. Ingen polis har dock besvarat beskjutningen.
Away from that, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk held a press conference outlining the priorities of Poland's presidency of the Council of the European Union. Von der Leyen emphasized the need for a significant boost in Europe's defense capabilities, highlighting the growing geopolitical challenges facing the continent. Additionally, the European Commission introduced a new strategy to enhance the single market, focusing on reducing bureaucratic barriers for businesses and improving the ease of trade and investment across the member states.
Since Russia brought war back to the European continent, security lies at the heart of everything we do. The threats we face are more complex and more diverse. The recent incidents in the Baltic Sea show that every piece of infrastructure is a potential target. Hence, the need to embed the security dimension into every European policy and action. Europe needs a surge in defense. Modern warfare requires scale, technology, coordination, too big for any one of our member states. But this is where joining forces, European cooperation, delivers. We will need funding, both public and private funding. We will need more cooperation for better interoperability and lower costs, simpler legislation, for instance, on public procurement, and more innovation.
Talking business now, Nigeria aims to tap into its vast gas reserves with the National Gas Expansion Program leading the charge. Professor Mohammed Ibrahim announced that Benue State will pioneer coal bed methane production, and Nigeria needs $20 billion annually for 10 years to invest in gas infrastructure. The NGEB project aims to make Nigeria a gas-based industrial action nation, increasing gas use for transportation, cooking, and industrialization. The investments will unlock Nigeria's gas potential and promote economic growth. Let's also tell you that Meta Platforms, the parent company of Facebook, is set to implement another round of layoffs across its operations in Africa, Europe, and Asia. The company will notify affected employees starting February 11. About 5% of lowest performers will be let go, with some positions to be backfilled. Employees in Germany, France, Italy, and the Netherlands are exempt due to local regulations. The layoffs come after Meta reduced its office space in Lagos, Nigeria, last year. In sports, President of the Nigeria Cricket Federation, Uyi Akpata, has outlined ambitious plans to elevate cricket status in Nigeria. Speaking on New Central's flagship sports program In the Game, Akpata revealed the federation's goal of making cricket one of the top 3 sports in Nigeria.
The top 3 playing sports in Nigeria. I know football is clearly number 1. You can argue about athletics, basketball, those ones. But we want to, so that anyone clearly says cricket is one of the top 3, and it's without question, facts are there to define it. But we're beginning to be recognized now. I think in the next 5 years, at different levels, we want to break clearly into the top 20 in both categories when it comes to high performance.
Okay.
We want to be reaching out to about 500,000 new kids every year.
Wow.
And we want to have standard facilities. We are 7 now. We want to have standard facilities that you can host any international tournament. We want to have at least 20 across the country.
And that's all at this hour. But before we go, we'll look at our top stories again. Abductors are demanding 250 million naira ransom for former Director General of the National Youth Service Corps, Maharazu Tsiga. Police have arrested 9 over death of Anambra lawmaker Justice Azuka. We also told you that leaders of Rwanda and DR Congo are meeting over Eastern DRC conflict. Do watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422 Star Times, channel 274 Avo TV and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Lekon Onobanjo.